A lot of people are not really living. They're waiting for the right moment, the right mood, the right relationship, the right amount of money, the right version of themselves to finally arrive, waiting to feel healed enough, confident enough, free enough, waiting for the storm inside the mind to settle so life can begin at last. And maybe you've felt that too. Maybe not in words this direct, but somewhere underneath your routines, underneath your plans, underneath all the little promises you make to yourself. Later, when things calm down, then I'll live. Yet later has a strange way of moving. It keeps stepping one room ahead of you. At first, that kind of waiting seems reasonable. When you're younger, it sounds almost noble. Get through this phase. Fix these problems. Sort yourself out. Reach that milestone. Then joy will make sense. Then presence will come naturally. Then you'll breathe more deeply and finally feel at home in your own life. But years pass, and the pattern stays the same. One problem gets replaced by another. One goal opens the door to 3 more. One finish line quietly turns into a new starting point. Life starts to feel like standing at a train station with a ticket in your hand, watching every train leave while telling yourself your real one just hasn't come yet. Here is the deeper issue. The mind often pretends to be helping while quietly building the very cage you're trying to escape. It keeps generating a version of you that feels heavy, unfinished, burdened, full of unresolved material. Then it whispers that your task is to carry that me everywhere until one glorious day when all the knots are untied and your real life can begin. But that day rarely comes, not because you failed and not because you didn't try hard enough. It doesn't come because life was never waiting on the far side of mental resolution. Life has always been here, underneath the noise, beneath the constant inner commentary, beneath the pressure to become someone better before you're allowed to feel alive. So much suffering begins with a simple mistake: believing you are a set of problems in human form, believing your identity is made out of wounds, fears, memories, roles, failures, unfinished business. Once that belief takes hold, every day starts to feel like maintenance. You wake up and immediately resume carrying yourself like a folder full of issues, old conversations, regrets, plans, comparisons, self-corrections, mental rehearsals. Your mind keeps opening file after file as if your whole existence depends on constant review. And sure, memory has its place. Your history doesn't vanish. Nothing needs to be erased. What matters is whether every memory needs to sit in the middle of your chest all day long, making you feel like a project instead of a presence. Think of it like a storage room in a house. Useful things belong there. You can go in, take what you need, and come back out. Healthy memory works like that. Yet many people live as if the entire storage room has been dumped into the center of the living space. Every box open, every label visible. No room to sit, no room to breathe. So even when life offers something simple and beautiful, a quiet afternoon, a kind glance, a warm drink, sunlight through a window, it barely reaches you. Not because the moment lacks beauty, but because the mind is too crowded with itself to receive it. Problem-making disguises itself as problem-solving, and because it sounds serious, productive, responsible, it often goes unquestioned. Eventually, waiting becomes your whole identity. You wait to be enough. You wait to be lighter. You wait to be free of anxiety, free of confusion, free of loneliness, free of your story. Some people wait through their 20s, convinced they still have time. Others wait through their 30s and 40s, adjusting the fantasy but keeping the structure. Then the mind gets clever and shifts the promise again. Maybe after retirement, maybe when the children are grown, maybe when work finally slows down, maybe when there are fewer demands. So your aliveness gets pushed into the future, like furniture being saved for a house you never move into. And then something unsettling happens. One day the outer pressure actually lessens. A role ends. A job changes. Retirement arrives. A long chase stops. And instead of peace, there's an unexpected emptiness. Because without the social function, without the constant doing, without people reflecting an identity back to you, a question appears. Who are you now? Many people meet that question and panic a little. Some rush toward distractions. Some decorate the waiting room and call it freedom. Some try hobbies, routines, entertainment, travel, anything to soften the deeper restlessness. For a while it works. Then the same quiet dissatisfaction rises again. Not because pleasure is wrong, and not because activities have no value, but because surface conditions were never designed to carry the full weight of your being. Relationships can be beautiful, work can be meaningful, success can feel exhilarating, a new chapter can wake up energy that seemed lost. Still, none of it fulfills you for very long when you're asking it to answer a question it was never meant to answer. No person can permanently stabilize your inner world. No achievement can convince the mind to stop reaching. No environment can keep you whole if your sense of self is rooted only in passing conditions. For a little while, yes, something new can feel like salvation. A relationship glows, a job gives identity, a dream finally materializes and fills the body with relief. Then slowly, almost invisibly, the old hunger returns, not because you're ungrateful, not because what you received was false. Something deeper is being revealed. Temporary things cannot provide permanent grounding. A useful image for this is the ripple and the ocean. On the surface, a ripple looks separate, small, vulnerable, exposed. It rises, moves, trembles, disappears. If it believes that is all it is, existence becomes stressful almost immediately. Every other ripple looks like a threat or a solution. One ripple says, maybe if I join with another ripple, I'll feel complete. Another says, maybe if I become a bigger ripple, I'll matter more. Another says, maybe if conditions stay gentle and the surface stays calm, I'll finally be okay. But no ripple can secure itself through the surface alone, because the surface is always changing. Wind shifts, forms dissolve, shapes come and go. What the ripple longs for is not greater control of appearances. What it longs for, even if it cannot name it yet, is remembrance of depth. And that is where everything begins to change. Beneath the surface identity, the name, the role, the history, the self-image, the endless thought stream, there is a quieter presence that does not depend on any of it. A stillness with no story attached. A simple sense of being that existed before the mind started narrating your life, and remains even when the narration pauses. Once you begin to sense that, even briefly, you realize you are not only the surface movement of your life. You are not only the ripple. Something vaster lives through you. Something that is not threatened by change in the same way the mind is. Something already connected to life, to others, to what many traditions have tried to name in different ways. Deeper self, Buddha nature, Atman, Christ within. Words vary. What they point to is the same living depth. From there, life on the surface doesn't have to become perfect in order to become beautiful. Things can still fall apart, people can leave, plans can collapse, bodies can age, moods can shift, ripples still rise and vanish. Yet your relationship with experience softens because you stop demanding permanence from what was never permanent. You stop asking people, jobs, possessions, milestones, or future versions of yourself to carry the burden of your fulfillment. A different kind of joy appears then, lighter, quieter, less dramatic, but far more real. You begin to move through life not as a heavy personality dragging its history from room to room, but more like a field of conscious presence, more open, more awake, almost like a child again, not childish, just unburdened enough to actually look, to actually notice, to actually be here. Once you see the pattern, the invitation becomes painfully clear and strangely beautiful at the same time. Stop waiting to become someone else before you allow yourself to be alive. Stop treating your life like a lobby. Stop speaking to the present moment as if it's only useful for getting you somewhere more important. There is no future version of you who will magically become worthy of presence. No final arrangement of circumstances is coming to grant permanent permission. Waiting has stolen enough already, enough mornings, enough conversations, enough sunsets, enough ordinary sacred moments that were dismissed because the mind was too busy negotiating with tomorrow. Presence, then, is not some grand performance. It's much simpler than that, and maybe a little more humbling. It means loosening your grip on the thought-made self again and again. It means noticing when the mind starts building heaviness and choosing, even for a breath, not to climb inside it. It means walking through your day with a little more space around your identity, looking at the world without constantly filtering everything through me, my issue, my fear, my next step, my unfinished story. There's a quiet freedom in that, not dramatic, not loud, more like taking off a coat you forgot you were wearing, more like setting down a bag you had mistaken for your own body. A retreat can help with that. Silence can help. Nature can help. Solitude can help. Slower mornings help. Honest attention helps. Yet no place can do the work for you if you carry the same identification everywhere you go. Even in peaceful surroundings, the mind can still complain, compare, perform, judge and shrink. It can say, something feels off, or everyone else seems more awake than me, or why am I not getting there faster? So the practice is not to create a perfect environment. The practice is to gently release the one who keeps turning every environment into another stage for dissatisfaction. That's where the shift happens, not through force, through seeing. So let this be the turning point. Not another idea you admire and then postpone, not another insight you store away for later. Let it become immediate. Begin walking through your life with less psychological weight. Look around more. Feel the moment you're in before racing to improve it. Meet people without secretly asking them to complete you. Meet your own mind without obeying every sentence it produces. Something in you already knows what is being said here. Something in you has been exhausted by waiting for years. And maybe that exhaustion is sacred, because maybe it is finally pushing you toward the one discovery that cannot disappoint. What you are runs deeper than the story you keep carrying.